Hey there, furries and sickos! Welcome to the Toy Chest. And as far as the stuff in that chest, I do, in fact, have a bold prediction for the most important thing in it. I predict, and this is not a joke, this is not a meme, I'm not just repeating something that has been said over and over again. I genuinely mean it and believe it when I say that 2025 will in fact be the year of the Linux desktop. I know, that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of headwinds that are going in Linux's favor, and I can show you that, yeah, there's more people using it now. I started experimenting with Linux in the form of Ubuntu on a Dell laptop way back here in 2010, I would like to say. And that was when Linux had less than 1% publishing. That's when it truly was like an uber hobby nerd thing. It wasn't as popular, but there were people working really hard to protect the freedom for you to do whatever the hell you please on your computer. To have an operating system that is completely free for you to download and just run on your machine. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to have Microsoft. This has been a thing since the mid-90s, and it came from Finland, a very good country. That's when I was experimenting with Linux. It kind of worked, and even back here, you could do most of your computer stuff, and I wasn't really a gamer. But as time has progressed, now in 2015, we have a Linux market share of 4%. This is genuine Linux. This is not just Linux plus Chrome OS, and this is not mobile. We're talking about the year of the Linux desktop, which is what I'm filming this on, obviously. And this is a screen record of my second monitor, my television, which is attached to a framework laptop, a framework 13, and the specific distribution of Linux I am running, if you look at this here fast fetch, is this, Aurora OS. You would not be able to tell at first glance that I'm running Aurora OS though, but quick summary, it is an immutable distro. It's something where the operating system exists in a read-only state, so I can't sudo whatever the hell the machine into oblivion, because as soon as the operating system starts, it's back to its original state. So, yeah, there's that. So the programs are flatpak programs that all have their own runtime in the part of the operating system, the home folder, and I believe that's it. But otherwise, everything else is locked down. It can't be hacked. It can't be changed. If someone just drove by and put in a keylogger, it would likely be gone after I rebooted. It's not like you can flatpak install a keylogger. And that's the other great thing about Linux these days. If I want to install a new program, I could flatpak install, and just an example, aggregator, something that can look at RSS feeds. And there it is in the command line. There's also the Discover, Web Store, and Package Manager. This takes all the flatpaks, and now you have something across any distribution where you can download and install programs. Flatpak is like the Linux equivalent of exe. It just runs on Linux now, and even better, you can manage permissions in Flatpaks. You can tell these programs, hey, you can access this part of the computer, but not the other. You can or cannot go on the internet. And sometimes it's good to go into Flatsail and have a looky-loo, but it's way more secure. And you know whether or not these programs are doing stuff. You have permission. It's yours. It's not like a smartphone where it might be recording you at all times and showing you hyper-specific ads. No, this is your machine, and you can set it up as well as you like. And yeah, at first glance, you're not going to notice that this is Aurora OS because this is far off from how it was originally. Let me show you what I mean. This is how I riced it. And the reason I can rice it is because if we go back into the fast fetch, try that again, sorry. I'm running the KDE desktop environment, Plasma 6.2.4. There's this many RPM packages and 69 flatpaks. Nice. And yeah, awesome. Flatpaks run in their own little containerized environments that you can change, and you can add more flatpaks, but they can't make changes to the operating system that could break it. And if there is an update that Universal Blue or Fedora, which it's based on, makes that does prevent the thing from booting, you can roll back to a previous image that did work, and it might just do that on its own. There are some immutable distros that do that as well. Immutable distros are awesome. They're great. And that's another tailwind that's like, woo! Did I say headwinds earlier, by the way? I meant tailwinds. You know, I'm a furry. Woo! Yeah! The rise of immutable distros. There are Linux distributions like Fedora KDE or KDE Neon where you can sudo. It's up to you, by the way. It's your choice if you want immutable or not. Where there are some Linux distros where you have to sudo, and then when you enter sudo, you're the super user, you have admin, you enter the password, and then you could break the whole thing. You could break how programs talk to each other. Now, there are distros like Aurora where you do not have to deal with that anymore. And that's pretty awesome. It's awesome, sauceum. And that's another tailwind for Linux. That's why it's on the rise. And also, there's gaming on it. With bazzite, there's really no excuse now. In bazzite, you can play on your whatever PC, any hardware, pretty much, and you can play anything that can run on Steam OS. That can run on the Steam Deck, but you can put it in a framework laptop or a PC build, tower, whatever you did. You can run it on that. It's also compatible with other game stores. So with bazzite, you have access to more games natively to that Linux distro than you do with the default Steam OS. I don't know why I'm holding that controller. It's not hooked up to anything, but you get my point. There is compatibility with games on Linux, and it works with most of the games now with compatibility layers with Proton, and especially with a distro like Bazzite, which I'm doing a little project. I'm making a console out of that. But with Bazzite and Linux, the kernel, it's pretty sweet. You can just do whatever.
Shall we play a game?
But the biggest selling point of Linux really is the fact that it respects you. What changes you make to it, what you want to do to it, the way you want to use it, the programs you want to operate in a certain way, the permissions you give or take from them. Linux is truly what you want from it and what you make it. Whether you are grabbing one of those steamy machines, I actually believe it's called the Steam Deck, and playing on that on a machine that currently is not compatible with printers for some reason, but if you want an operating system like that you can take with you and game on and also attach to a television set with the keyboard and mouse, whatever you like. And that's just the beginning. You can, with Linux, decide to run it like I've got it running right now. Right now, I have a virtual machine with an encrypted part of the hard drive, so that information is not just secure, but it's safe. It's impossible for prying eyes like the NSA to look at it. If I want to look at private, adult, consensual stuff, then yes, I can do it this way. If I want to run programs that are not flatpak, I can go in one of these distro boxes. I can even run command line programs in a little safe container. If you're feeling more adventurous, you could not use an immutable distro. You can use a mutable distro that you can just break to the point that I did all the way back in like 2010 when I completely broke a Dell laptop because I put Linux on it, because of Ubuntu. But I could organize some command line or GUI programs that are not flatpaks and that would otherwise need root access in a safe little distro box. One of these, I have one for Task Warrior, which is a command line program. I got a LibreSurf distro box that I use if I want to connect to the internet through I2P, which I'm going to make a video on that too. There's Joshua, which has my own private chatbots. I have AI on my Framework laptop, and I don't even need to access the internet. I just got a distro box. Enter Joshua. For example, and run a chatbot like wait, I forgot to add the run command. That's why it's called the command line, by the way. And you get to understand how computers work a lot more doing this, and it makes you want to just go out there and build a better world, okay? And we all want that. That's what we all want. That's what we all need. That's what we all deserve, and Linux will give you that. I can isolate the open source AI from the main system, which is immutable, need I remind you, and thus cannot break. And if I don't like what the AI chat history in that box, in that distro box, is, I can, in fact, delete Joshua here. And speaking of, hello, Joshua. Got my own chatbot. Don't need the internet. It just is, and it's gonna take a bit to think about the answer, but it's more than happy to assist. It's your Linux. AI or no, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. Let's have a closer look in here, shall we? Play a game. So, bazzite is from Universal Blue. And so is Aurora. Aurora is also from Universal Blue. These are two Linux distributions that are immutable. I'm running Aurora, but you have bazzite for gaming. This isn't sponsored in any way, it's just these are my favorite Linux distros now, and it makes it so much easier to take part in the Linux community, to join the revolution that we need in our lives, that we need to take control of the tools we use to live. Linux promises this. Linux respects this. I cannot say the same or make any sort of promise from Windows or Macintosh or even Chrome OS. They can't promise to respect you. But Linux can. It is an operating system made by the people, for the people, with the people, with their hearts set on making the world a better place. That is what Linux can promise. More than Trump and more than any big tech billionaire. Linux is freedom. Linux can and will fulfill the promise of being able to do whatever you want with your machine, having the freedom to do whatever you want with your machine, potentially beyond what was originally intended. It's your choice. Whereas Windows will lock you down and restrict what you can do with it. With Linux, I can have the apps be selected from the side instead of the bottom. Windows got rid of that feature. I'm not sure that was ever a thing in Mac, but I don't have to care. It's Linux. I can choose my backup program, and it's free, and it's trustworthy, and it's open source. And if there was something nefarious with it, someone would have known. Someone would have spilled the beans on social media. So I know I can trust that. Open source is trust. Open source is freedom. And Linux is open source. Linux is what all of y'all can do to make the world a better place. And yes, I did let some of that Georgian slip out. I am originally from there, y'all, but I lived in Minnesota almost as long. With Linux, you get to decide how you want to install a program. You can do it through the GUI. You don't even have to type in flatpak and make sure the shell's where it needs to be. So you don't even need to flatpak install program. If you prefer the App Store method, I'm sure most of you are familiar with how a smartphone works. There's something like that with Discover in KDE. Sure. You want to have a physics simulator? Go nuts. There it is. I didn't even need to launch the terminal. If you want to launch the terminal with F12, you can set it so you can do it with that. Or if you want to use a different terminal, if you want to use console instead of Yaquaki, there it is. But the freedom doesn't end there. You can do even more crazy shit. Like, if I want to open a completely fresh desktop, I could just roll it over. Like, they don't make desks where you can roll over stuff that's like attached to it with 3M or standard hooks. That could be a thing in some future, but if I just want a fresh desktop, there it is. Everything is still running in the background. OBS is still running in the background, but I can still do stuff. I can open another program. I can run Android apps with Waydroid. That's something I would love to show you, and I certainly will in the coming year. It's my Linux. I can do what I want. It's made by the people for the people to set their machines free. Yeah, I love it. It's like discovering the wonder of computing all over again. And the best part, the absolute best part, I just would love to show you. And here it is. I can make my own Linux. It's not just that I can make Linux my own. I can make my own Linux. The changes that you see here, like, this is standard Aurora OS, and the way I made it for me is different. But I'm autistic. I want my machine to reflect me as much as possible. Linux can do that in a way that no other operating system can. And if this were a physical device, it would reflect that the way I would want it to run as much as possible. But this is all software. This is all magic. A machine within a machine within a machine. I got the power buttons and a lock button here on the side. A visual indicator of the caps lock on the screen. And the numlock. Just to see, is that on or not? There you go. That's the indicator for that. Layers upon layers. If I wanted to make a secure operating system, or was even contracted to by the government, let's say the state of Minnesota, since I'm so patriotic and I honestly believe this is a good idea, wanted to switch from Windows in the operations of its government from proprietary to open source, and they wanted to have their own operating system for this. I could take Aurora, I could set it all up in a way that it is as secure as possible, what I would expect a government computer to be, even if just a state government computer, but way superior to how Windows does it. Something even more secure than the default settings, something that absolutely will have encrypted drives enabled by default, something that requires some form of encryption in all communication, whether it's I2P or Tor or a state VPN. if the government contracted me to acquire that so that peeping toms and foreign agents couldn't catch it, and it would make the federal government embarrassed because they didn't think of all that. Something with some portable application, as in like being able to scale it out, put it all on the government machines tomorrow. If you had something like Loon OS, well, I could set it all up in here in this virtual machine, pack it all together with all the defaults that I put it in with, and then generate another ISO. And I wouldn't have Firefox. I would have something even more secure than that. Loon OS for state government computers. Call me if you want to give me some credit for that and send me the monies. That's a project I can do, and then I can upload that to GitHub and share it for the public to see. And yeah, give it to the state. Because there's a place in Germany that's doing this. I could even make different flavors of Loon OS. And the state government could protect the general public from the worst aspects of a second Trump turn with Loon OS. They could have Loon OS Loon OS Homestead for the general public. We could have a special spin-off for the kiddos, something called Loon OS Backside. You know, because loons, mothers, parents, something with parental controls on it, and a standardized method of parental controls, and authentication and graduating what kind of content people can see on the internet that is itself open source and is the solution to the hub problem. Like a standard V chip before, but for the internet and in the robots.txt robot pointer command file in JavaScript, the part of the page that you don't see. And in this Loon OS back edition, you would get you would have to enter your date of birth, and then the browser would gradually, go up and up and up. And it would have like TV ratings, but for the web and kind of based off of something called Censorship Panda. Some furries, some elder furries know about that, but you would have that, but on the JavaScript part of the web page with standard markers and like little flags like this contains blood and gore, or a flag that says profanity, sexual references, and there would be a standard setting for this. Or if you were a parent, you could make yourself a user and then make a user for the kiddos, and you could set your own settings based on what you deem is appropriate and at what ages. Again, like a V-chip, but for the internet and for computers, and I would make it and I would share it to the general public. You could make that a project. You can make that an image based on Aurora OS. You would have Loon OS for businesses, and it would have compatibility layers. It could have bottles. Honestly, I believe Linux is the next big revolution in computing. It's not AI, generative AI, like Llama or Midjourney, though I will study those. I'm not going to use that to create, but I will have a look at that and how it works and what it can be capable of. And I do use that to troubleshoot and make skeleton code because I consider that fair game because of how much of that is already open source to begin with. So, for all of those reasons, I do believe that 2025 will be the year of the Linux desktop. It's, for computers, what people have been wanting for society. Something that respects them, something that will listen, something that reflects their values. Because in recent decades, like from the 80s on, it just seems like the government of America itself hasn't, even if Minnesota is among the first to do a 180 and say, you know what? It's time we start listening to the people. And let them build and create the world they want to build. All of them. Not just the people we're doing bribing tabbing with. Linux is for everyone. And I strongly encourage everyone to have a look at it, check it out, and use it in whatever way they see fit. I implore you all to do the year of the Linux desktop the way you want to. Because I know you all would love to give Adobe and Microsoft for that recall bullshit and putting those ads in. Nah, Linux won't do that to you. And if you're worried about breaking stuff, well, with Immutable distros, you don't have to be anymore. You can roll back the changes. And get everything working for you the way you wanted it to. Again. And as always, subscribe if you like, and share if you care.